Hi, everyone. Thank you for joining us. Good afternoon, good morning, good evening, wherever you're joining us from. I know we've had people register from various parts of the world, so that's very exciting. And maybe by way of introduction, my name is Nas. I'm the CEO at Internet Lambda. I'm joined today by three esteemed members of our panel. We've got Kate from the BBC, we've got Will from Crew Group, and we have Mohit from the Collinson Group. And I'll give them a chance to introduce themselves properly in a minute. I probably want to give another couple of minutes for people to join the event. Usually we get about peak performance about 5 minutes into the hour. So that you don't have to suffer through some awkward silence, I prepared one or two icebreaking questions. And okay, the first one isn't really an icebreaker, it's more of an intellectual question. And I wanted to ask the panelists, while we're waiting to properly kick off, to share one book that they would each recommend to our audience. And maybe I'll start with you, Kate.
Yeah, I've got one in mind already. So I don't know how many of you know Doug Laney's book, Infonomics. You could tell it's well loved, and highly recommend it. I think it's one of the kind of key books around assessing and thinking about data as an asset, as a strategic enterprise data asset. So highly recommend it. I love it. I've recommended it to all of my data product managers. So
you're so on theme. I love it. Thanks so much, Kate. Brilliant. And Mohit, do you want to go next?
To be done again, because we are talking about data as a product. So I think I would highly recommend people reading Jobs to be Done, which talks a lot about what to do when you are trying to build product from scratch. And it is also taking into consideration a lot of things in terms of being iterative. How do you fail fast? So yeah, I think that's one, I think which I can think off the top of my head.
Brilliant. Thanks for that. I actually haven't read this one. I've read Kate's recommendation, but I haven't. The Jobs to be Done one, I definitely want to read it. So I think after, when we distribute a thank you note for everyone who joined or didn't join, I'll try and make sure we include links to the books you recommend. But last but not least, Will, is there a book you'd like to recommend to the audience?
Yeah, so I'm not on topic, but it's Prisoners of Geography by Tim Marshall. So it's all about geopolitics and the geography of the world and how that affects geopolitics. So it's written quite a few years ago. But he's written a number of sequels as well to that, and I think it's kind of increasingly relevant. So a good read, really interesting.
Amazing. Yeah, I love that book also. Fantastic. Well, 3 recommendations. There you go, folks. We've already learned a lot. I think I do have to ask my icebreaker question, which is, seeing as it's summertime in most of the countries we have participants from. What's your favorite ice cream flavor, Kate?
Oh, that's so tough. There are many great ice cream places around us. So probably, like they do a Black Forest, sort of Black Forest Gâteau style ice cream, never bad. Cherry chocolate, that kind of idea. So yeah. But yeah, that's me.
Lovely. Oh wow, no, I shouldn't have asked this question. I'm getting hungry. Mohit, do you have a favorite ice cream flavor?
Yeah, I mean, I do have favorite. I think I love pistachio, and I think anytime I can get my hands on pistachio, I think if it ice cream, then really good. Even if it is not ice cream, I think something else, I love it. So yeah, I think that's my favorite go-to flavor.
Nice one. Okay, I'm also team pistachio, by the way. But Will, last but not least, again.
Well, just make it a triple. Pistachio is also my favorite too, but also partial to vanilla. You can't beat a plain vanilla ice cream.
Love it. Okay, great. Well, I think with that, hopefully we haven't lost too much of the audience who have run off to the supermarkets to buy some ice cream or to the fridge. And we can get that teeth stuck into the discussion for today, and that's driving a data as a product mindset. And I wanted to maybe kick off with explaining why exactly I've brought all of you here today to talk about this. But before I do so, I think it's only natural that we all introduce ourselves first properly. So let's start with yourself, Kate, if you don't mind, seeing as I've already targeted you to be kicking us off with these kind of questions. Who are you? What do you do? What brings you here?
Cool. So yeah, hi, my name's Kate Ho. I'm currently the head of product for our data platforms and product space inside the BBC, in particular the public service. So again, just to give you a sense of scale, we ingest between 3 to 5 billion events per day. You know, we have one of the largest news websites in the world, as you can imagine, and a variety of products, including iPlayer, sounds, news and sport, but also children's bite size. So you can imagine, as a national broadcaster, we have a wide array of different needs around analytics. Me personally, this is my third head of product data-esque role in terms of different organizations. So I've also played a similar role in Sainsbury's and Sainsbury's Bank, and then also at Skyscanner as a in various guises around thinking about data as a product. So bit of an old hand, but hopefully not too old. And largely my background is in product management. So really bringing those product management principles, and what I love about data and applying those product management principles to data is that it is a product that has no UI. It's very difficult to measure, it's slightly abstract, and you almost have to deconstruct and really think about it from first principles up. And that's what I love about data as a product. It's like the extreme hard mode in product management.
I love that, the extreme hard mode in product management. I think that's going to make it to the snippets from this call. Thanks so much, Kate. Mohit, would you like to go next with an introduction?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. My name is Mohit Joshi. I am the director of data platform and machine learning platform as part of Collinson. I've been working here for many years, been part of many projects, which mainly revolve around data, uses of data, how to create value through data. So today I'm here to talk about how to maximize the impact through data, and obviously data product is the topic right now, which a lot of people have been trying to tackle, trying to understand how to either introduce or enhance it further. I work in a company called Collinson. I'm not sure whether you have heard of the company or not, but if you have heard of a brand called Priority Pass, which allows you to get access to different lounges across the globe. That is the brand which is part of Collinson. So as you can now understand, I think we work in a space which is very close to travel and consumer servicing. So my priority around working with the data is to understand how we can, first of all, understand our consumers, what our consumer wants, and work with the product team, and obviously work alongside them to guide them how data can be utilized as this driver to enable and unlock the value, right? Okay, I think which has I think elevated in last few months a lot, because I think we have had a lot of transformation inside the organization. So yeah.
Amazing, and I can't wait to talk more about the whole bridge between data as a product and kind of how it unlocks that driving value for an organization. Thanks for that, Mohit. Will, would you like to finish us off with introductions?
Yeah, so hi, I'm Will Blake. I'm the CTO at Cruise. So Cruise is a global data and business intelligence business in the global commodities industries. So we cover everything from steel, aluminium, copper, through the whole market analysis, pricing data, consulting, and events. We got a slightly different lens on data as a product, because we actually sell data to our customers to help them make better decisions within these commodities industries. And we've transformed from a paper-based publisher. So we've been going for over 50 years, and we've moved into a digital data and analysis business. So we're creating data products to sell to customers, so they can use that data, analyze it, and bring it into their own systems to help them make better decisions. So it's been a whole transformation journey, and yeah, it's a lot of experience around that, and a different lens to other businesses.
Amazing. Thanks for that, everyone. Well, as our viewers can see, we have an amazing panel here, and I'll be honest, I kind of invited you all because I really want to learn from you. I started my journey kind of figuring out what driving value from data means basically about a decade ago, when I first started working with data. And at the time, I feel I was of that typical order-taking mentality whereby, whether I was taking a data engineering role or a business intelligence role, it would always be about either moving data from A to B and then doing some transformations I didn't really understand, and driving some data assets I didn't really know what they're for, or building dashboards that showed numbers I didn't really get. And ultimately, I was hoping that business stakeholders that would give me these kind of requirements would know why they needed that also in the first place. But eventually, I kind of started getting a bit more curious and a bit more nosy. Like, what do we do with this stuff? How do we drive value for the organization? What is it all for? Why are they paying me a salary? And that's kind of when ultimately I started to figure out that there's a lot of value to be driven with data, but it also takes a bit of a mindset shift, and it takes figuring out how to do it consistently and how to drive that value in a repeatable, reproducible manner, and iteratively grow the presence and the value of data in an organization. And that's roughly when we started Infinite Lambda about 5 years ago, and we've been doing a lot of work in solving data problems for people. And I think about a couple of years ago, I heard the idea of a data as a product for the first time. I probably heard it first from Kate, actually, when we were working together with Skyscanner. I probably wasn't paying attention because I still didn't quite get it. Oh, we seem to have lost Mohit. Hopefully he'll return. But yeah, I think the last couple of years has been a very trendy topic, isn't it? Hasn't it? Data as a product. And I think we've been seeing it adopted to various degrees within the community. It probably means different things to different people. And it probably, some connected more to value for the business and for the organization, others connected more to how we manage the technology aspect of data. So I'm really curious to hear everyone's thoughts, and maybe start with a definition, maybe with you, Kate. How do you define data as a product, and what does it mean for an organization to adopt a data as a product mindset? Does that even mean anything to you?
Oh gosh, it's such a big question in terms of that definition. And I think maybe I'll take the second question first in terms of that mindset, and then we can arrive to that kind of definition. For me, it's really about, and it's linked in with the Infonomics kind of book recommendation I had earlier. To me, the real big mindset change is starting to not think about data in terms of just reports or spreadsheets or things in a data warehouse, but much more about imagining it and looking after and curating it and consuming it like it's an enterprise data, enterprise asset, right? And that it's a first-class citizen up there. And what that really means to me is that it is about ensuring that we have really high quality data so that we could make high quality data decisions, but also making sure that we have the appropriate checks. I mean, we kind of jokingly say, if you have, if you pick up a data product, it's a bit like the nutrition values that you get on food, right? So you might choose to have a consumer product that is slightly lesser, that is slightly high in fat, but it's okay because it's cake and you're having a good day, right? So the end consumer gets to decide, and you know, what would be fit for purpose for them, for their use, right? And that's quite a different mentality to, okay, right, here's our daily, you know, report, or here's our like monthly business pack. And then I come from it from a way, because again, I come from it from a product management perspective. I really think about it as how do you spot, it's all about reusability, right? So what does product management mean in general, right? Like, it means that there's a set of user needs, right, that is repeated over and over again and are similar enough and are consistent enough that can be served, you know, by a particular set of features. So I think of data as a similar thing, right? Which is, okay, you've got source data coming in, kind of raw data, right? We've got to have, what are the different patterns of consumption? Who are our users? What do they want? And how do we segment those users? And really then we can measure success and adoption of those products based on the user outcomes, and not just, you know, our, you know, how, you know, timeliness of the report coming out. Does that kind of make sense?
I'm sure it does to a lot of people, and I really like your analogy there with the nutrition value on the side of products. This is such a brilliant analogy. I'm totally going to steal that. So thanks for that, Kate. Yeah, really eloquently put. What are your views, Mohit?
Yeah, I mean, I would start with explaining, or I think just justifying the need to have this particular role of let's say data product manager as part of the data team, because I think anything which you want to do starts from yourself. So if you're talking in context of a team, the data team who already understands the value of the data, but not so much able to explain that value back to the business. So why that was not happening? What was the reason behind that? Was that that's not being able to be achieved? So when you take a look at how the product development has happened, I think, and some of the first principle of it is it starts with a vision, right? Okay, I think this is what the vision for the product looks like. Now, if you want to draw the parallels of, let's say, I think you want to build a data product, I think you need to start with that vision of, what that data product's vision is going to look like. But if you almost think how we are doing the stuff with the data, we don't start with the vision. The vision is created by someone else in the business who knows about that vision, keeps that vision to themselves, and then there is loss of that communication, loss of that understanding of the vision happens in between. So what if we flip that on its head and say that, I think vision is going to also be created by some of the people in the data, or at least it would be created alongside the people who work with the data. Once you have the understanding of that vision, you can start, first of all, manifesting this need within the data team that we need to be something closer to a person who is doing product development. Second, we can then start focusing on the values which we can create, I think based on the vision, because our journey would become easy if we know this is where we are going and almost come back from it, and this is what the beginning looks like. Now, I think, so obviously I gave all of this just to make sense of, I think, why are we even talking about this topic? Because first of all, data product as a topic has been used many a times. People are talking about it, but I think we will have to start educating the people within our team only that, data product is not just a thing for the organization, for our own people as well. They need to understand what do they mean by it. Once that happens, then you start thinking about, okay, what do we really mean by it and how we are going to be achieving it? Because if you just try to think about it, right? Okay, let's go a decade back. and how the data was being utilized. Okay, if you just take an example of the financial function, they have been using data for a very long time. They have been relying on data for a very long time. They have been using it to create the sales report, do the forecast, give the report back to the business. Okay, this is how the stuff should happen. But was it ever considered as a product? Not really. Why? Because as and when the demand increased, we started creating more and more data assets, and we started creating these siloed data assets, which would basically serve for the need of the business, to the finance team, to the PNC team. But we never thought, okay, if we consider this asset as a product and try to maximize the impact and also apply the iterative nature of doing the development, this is going to, first of all, eliminate this need of siloed development and have one single data asset which can be considered as a product, which can be enhanced not just for the finance but for the product team as well, for the PNC team as well, for any team in the organization. If there is a data asset which you are calling a sales data asset, there should be only one which should be enhanced iteratively by understanding where it makes most of the impact, and then you should go further from there. So obviously the journey starts from your own team to understand what that data product mindset looks like. Okay, why do we really need it? But then you need to pick an approach in which you are going to make business understand why do we need to do that. And it's a journey, to be honest, because uh, you know uh, you are always going to struggle to make your business understand that you need to remove the silos, because as long as the stuff is getting done for the business, they're not going to say, okay, I think let's build a product, right? So I think this is what I want to start with, at least in terms of the introduction of the data product, data as a product, as well as I think why do we need that mindset.
I love that. That's really, I think it really brings another dimension to the problem, which is that discipline, right? Excuse me, of how you even approach that. It seems like it has, when we say mindset, it also has to be trained as a discipline for, rather than going back into that old mentality of let's just silo and address concerns separately. Rather, let's be disciplined about it and iterate over one asset that we want to improve upon and kind of make sure that it's reused in a much better way across the organization. I really like that dimension you added there, Mohit. And I probably want to throw a slightly different question at you, Will, seeing as we've already had two excellent answers, and yet you said something earlier that you as an organization actually maybe have a slightly different spin on the product side of data as a product, because you actually are selling data and it is your product, which is really fascinating, isn't it? And when you kind of approach it from this discussion point of view, how did you even get on that journey of creating a data as a product, and how did you also adopt that as a mindset? And I'm keen to hear maybe also from you and from others about success stories and lessons learned along that journey.
Yeah, so I suppose within Krug, so we've been operating for a long time, selling information. So that's analysis based on data, and in some respects, the data was always kind of secondary. It was like a needs to an end to write the analysis. And we delivered the data to all our clients. So it's all on subscriptions via Excel sheets. So in effect, we've been delivering data as a product for almost 50 years. Well, I suppose not 50 years because Excel wasn't around, but they delivered data within written products, and then it moved into Excel. So we were kind of doing that without realizing it, that it was a product, and these things evolved, and we had to manage that data and listen to our customers, what their data problems are, what their use cases are, how they're going to use the data, and how they use it to solve their various decisions. And I suppose as we digitized over the last 10 years and moved away from that sort of print format and into a digital world, we started to realize the true value of having that data, and then to be able to get it into a form, manage it with good data governance and good data quality, be able to demonstrate that quality and build trust in those data sets, and then deliver that in a form that the customers can can consume easily. They can do some of their own analysis, or just bring it into their own systems. And I think that the spin we've got on external focus, that everything has to have commercial value. So we create new data products, but they have to make a profit, essentially. So we have to look at what are we going to sell into, what's the market, what's the problem we're going to solve, how are we going to create that product. Obviously there's a cost to that, and then what's the ongoing sales process, and it's all on subscription, so people got to renew as well. So we got to make sure they renew at the end of the subscription term. So we got to continue to deliver value and updates to that data set. So we're always evaluating I suppose the business case for it, and that justifies the development in the data and the management of those data assets, because it's quite a costly process it's not just the technology, but it's managing the whole data collection process, data modeling, data quality, and data governance, because we have to continuously ensure we have that quality and demonstrate that quality to our clients.
Fascinating. That's I really am keen to hear if anyone else on the panel has had that sort of I guess constraint, you can say, where you've had to make sure if it's a data asset, it's got to make money, right? That's really I don't know if that's unique to companies that sell data, but in any case, I'm curious to hear your thoughts, Kate. Same question to you, actually, just from the beginning. How do you get started on this journey, and any success stories or any kind of lessons learned?
Just on your point about making money and data, I really do think that there are multiple forms of monetization, which isn't just about selling that data, right? That you could save a lot of money by better targeting, for instance, in your top of funnel activities, and and all the way through the customer life cycle as well, using data around that. So when I think about monetization, when I think about deriving its monetary value from data, it's not always just about selling, but it's all about also about cost savings and operational efficiencies as well. So yeah, that to me is like a really big thing to drive home. In terms of success stories, I think there are, well, I would say the approach is still relatively young, right? So it's not, there's not going to be, well, the approach is still relatively young, and there is still quite a lot of way to go in terms of organizations. And when we're talking about data as a product, we're really talking about really quite substantial organizations, quite large scale organizations. If it's you in a 10-person startup, that's quite a different scale in terms of success stories to 20,000 people organization. So yeah, from those I definitely have some lessons learned, if that's useful. And I think some of those lessons learned are that I've written a few notes here that as I reflect on going on that journey again, that data governance is your friend, right? and it's almost in life they kind of joke about the certain level of your success would be dependent on your spouse. And Naz, I know you just recently got married, so it'll be top of your mind. But I really do think that data governance function, in terms of the attitude of that, whether it's an actual function and a person, if they see that as an enabler, see themselves as an enabler, you've got a best friend for life, in terms of because you have to incentivize a lot of people. So there's a great story about how you incentivize, and there's a lot of kind of selling inside the organization around that. But also you've got to make sure that there's the appropriate frameworks and appropriate actions for not adhering, right, and not following the kind of data as a product type principles, right? So like that to me is really, really key. Number two, making it easy to do the right things from a platform perspective. So even the tooling that you have, the technologies that you have, really thinking about it from the data product creators perspective and thinking, okay, well, right now, and this is again a process that we're kind of going through right now, starting to think from a platform perspective. If a data product creator has to open, 5 different tabs with a data catalog in one, DBT in another, your some sort of console in your data warehouse, and all of these different things, Confluence for your documentation, you suddenly have to, the complexity is so much harder, right, in order to do the right things. So we're constantly, again, thinking from a platform perspective, how do we make it easy to do the right things, to make sure there's good technical and business metadata, so that we could get those nutrition values in that data product. And then the third thing that I often think about is, before we even embark on that journey, is starting to think about getting buy-in from the product engineering teams. My experience in the past is that data or metric definitions is like a hobby sport for folks inside data, right? Like we will always argue about, does this number include the Channel Islands or not? It's etc. And how do we count X, Y, and Z? What is the exact definition? But when you look inside the actual data, you have to go back all the way to the data producers, and in technology companies, often they're the product engineering teams. And some of those engineers might not be incentivized to not put test accounts data inside the live environment, right? And it's, or other variations of that, right? And it's trying to make sure that you get sufficiently buy-in from the heads of product, heads of engineering in the beginning, so that then you can kind of, when you do hit into problems, you suddenly got a data governance framework in which we can resolve some of those issues, B, buy-in from the product and the engineering leadership to say, yes, this is an issue that we need to fix, and C, making sure that, it is super easy for you to actually do the right thing. Please do not, veer from this path. So I think in terms of those lessons learned, those are the things that really stick out in my mind as we go on this journey again.
Amazing. Well, thank you for sharing that. I think there's so much to just these 3 lessons learned that we could do webinars on each of them, I'm guessing. I do perhaps want to take the conversation, seeing as you mentioned technology and you mentioned platforming and you mentioned liaising with engineering as well. I guess a question for you, Mohit. What is the place of technology? What is the place of tools in creating, in implementing data as a product and in driving it as an ongoing mindset? Can you share your views on that?
Yeah, I mean, see, first of all, use of you can't really remove tech from any of these kind of development which you want to do, right? Okay, because first of all, I think that there are a lot of sentiments which you are gonna find either part of your LinkedIn feed, or if you read the blog, we need to put people process before technology. I think I'm a person who believes in parallel execution, or you need to think about people in parallel to process, in parallel to technology, because I think if you don't have technology, even if you have a grand vision to change and transform the business, and I don't think you can do anything with that. So the first thing, even if you, to understand what tech would you need to understand the end game. So I always use this word, which is end game, is broader than I think just the literal meaning of it, at least in the business context, which is, first of all, where are you trying to go? What value are you trying to give back to the business? And then I think and last question, which not everyone wants to answer: what happens if we don't do it? Because I think a lot of times this question has been asked to me as part of the work or initiative which I have taken as part of the data team. If I'm proposing something, I have an end game in my mind. This is what the value we can provide, let's say in next 3 years or 4 years. But if the business is going to ask you, what if we don't do it? do you have an answer for that? Because I don't think we think so much about what if we don't do it, because we are so much driven sometimes because of the innovation happening in the outside world. Okay, let's just hop on to this bandwagon and try to deliver something, because there is so much of buzz created because of generative AI. I think let's build something which is going to be using it. But that should not be the case. I think your a use case should be able to answer. I think if you don't do it, still, are we going to be able to deliver the same, or are we going to have any loss, or I think, are we not going to be able to survive? So once you have an answer for all of that, it just gives you the answer to the question. Okay, now we understand the end game. For us to achieve this, these are the technical building blocks we are going to be needing, and these are the technical inputs we are going to be needing. So once you have an answer for all of that, it just or it's just me.
We lost you after the technical. Are these the technical building blocks that we're going to be needing, and then you disappeared? Oh, now he's fully disappeared. Oh, crikey. Let's see if I'm going to count to 5, and if he returns within these 5 seconds, we're going to let him resume. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Okay, he did not. Maybe Will, would you like to have a stab at this same question? What is the place of technology and tools and platforms in building a data as a product mindset? Mohit, seeing as Mohit dropped, I just passed the ball over to Will. Sorry, Mohit. Maybe we'll get back to you in a minute. Yeah.
Well, I think it forms a very very key part of it, and particularly it's similar to Mohit, looking at the long-term architecture and how how we're going to scale, because the volume of data is obviously increased exponentially, and how we manage that. So I think technology is vital to help us manage that, to manage it efficiently. So that goes right across the stack, from data ingestion, data storage, how we manage the pipelines, how we manage governance, and also how we manage quality and measure quality and demonstrate it. And I think without technology, you just can't operate at the scale which every organization's experiencing now, just the volume of data, both internally and externally. So we definitely evaluate the technologies based on the use case coming in, what we need to achieve. We look at what technologies we can bring into the stack to help us with that. But we also try and keep that consistent architecture to help us scale and reduce costs. So it's important to manage it centrally, so we're not replicating efforts across the organization. So then you can federate different solutions and make it efficient. And obviously off the back of that, is interesting coming. In my role, we do a lot of software development as well. So we manage teams of software developers, and I think in a way the data technologies now are kind of catching up with software technologies. I think they were 5 years ago, they're quite far behind, but there's a lot of similarities now in how you manage data in terms of its development and production.
Thanks, Will. And I'm kind of I kind of feel like I missed out on a bunch of good stuff when your connection dropped there. So I wonder if I can get back to you, but maybe twisting the question a little bit. Maybe it will help you also finish your thoughts from earlier. You were saying, if it's the technology, then it's technology. But I want to ask you, how much of implementing data as a product is technology, and how much of it is process related?
That's a great question. I think I do not really have a percentage distribution, to be honest, but I would give both of them equal weightage at this point of time, because see, the thing is, product mindset is more about being able to adapt to, I think, certain changes happening as part of the organization. When you are not, adopting this product mindset, then basically what ends up happening is, I think you do create the value, but you do not really have a way, first of all, to translate that to a business value, because data team has been creating value, I think, just believe it or not, because they have been delivering reports after reports, and then they have been helping operational team, finance team, and I think other teams as well, in giving them the data they require. But we have not been really great at being able to top it up by enhancing the same value further and further. So when you first of all put the process in place, I keep saying this iterative process because I'm not seeing this happening a lot. The agile methodology in the data team has not been fully realized because it is quite hard, and we all know that. But at least need to be a bit iterative, which will allow us to, okay, let's say that in a month I'm gonna be able to deliver this much of value, but we also have a target in the next 6 months. We are gonna be iterating over it. We are gonna keep adding value on top of that. Now, one thing which we need to maybe educate everyone in the data team for that to happen is, I feel we as data people sometimes fear failure. I guess, we always want the highest accuracy, highest quality, highest of everything, right? It doesn't need to happen. Just give it a month, let it fail, let the business realize that, okay, we have done something, but there is another iteration of something which is required. So I think we are going to spend more time on it. So that if you do follow that process, first of all, you are able to give output to the business within a month or so. Second, you are telling them, okay, I couldn't do it because I did not really have the support of this person, or I did not really have this particular technology. Now you have a business case of either adding more resources, or I think getting more advanced technology to to help you build something. Now if you just then compare that to the technology, obviously I think to achieve all this thing as part of the process, you need to be able to I think rely on the tech you have, the data architecture you have. Okay, I think you can't really deliver, you want to really create a data product which is going to be able to connect with the consumer, gonna be able to give them best offers. You need a real time data driven architecture, right? If you don't really have that, how would you do that? So I mean, I think once you have the process, once you have the vision, once you have the people to do all of that, I think all that needs to be complemented by the technology, which right now, as Will said, is catching up with the software as well, because we have so many tools. I think every other day when I'm trying to research outside, or I have an idea, okay, this is a really nice business idea from a data perspective, someone already has done it, because that's how fast we have become. And realizing that I think data has a huge value. If we create something, yeah, we can make it sellable.
Amazing, thanks for that. That's you touched on a lot of things there, and I'm conscious that we only have 15 minutes left, and there's a few questions, but I do want to ask one last question of my own, and then I think we'll jump to the Q&A, which is, I guess, my cue to suggest to people use the questions section on Lightstorm, folks, if you want to ask a question, and then I'll probably won't have time for all of them, but let's see how many we have time for. My final question, because you touched on what is data as a product, what's the part of technology, what's the part of process. I want to hear your views, maybe starting with you, Kate, on whose job is it to drive data as a product? Like who does this in an organization? Do we need special people to come in? Is it already people who exist? Is it the tech side? Is it the data side? Or is it that product side, the data side, the business side? Who's involved? Who's got what roles and responsibilities? And if you can share your screen and draw a RASI matrix, no, I'm joking, but can you give us your views on high level how it works?
I love that. I guess I'm going to go all the way to the top, which is whose real role is it to drive it? I really do think it's so the easy answer would be to say, oh, your CDO or your some data director or data equivalent, right? But actually it isn't. It has to come all the way from the top. And what I mean by that is, okay, your CEO or your MD or the person at the top doesn't need to know SQL or doesn't, but they need to be bought into the idea that data is going to drive their business, and that data is a competitive advantage for them, right? If you don't get that from the top, then it's a, no matter how hard you push, it pushes uphill, right? So let me start with that. Then, as a data product manager, for the last 6 years or so, of course, I'm going to say data product management and what's data product managers. And I think they don't drive it. I think they're a key integral part of it. So I really do think, and I was talking to my colleague about this morning. When you think about that data lifecycle, when you start to think about the data as a product, you start to have to think, all right, well, who's curating the data? Who's collecting the data? Who's curating it? And when I mean curating, I mean actually maybe create different data sets and maybe model it differently. But then also, having that single source of truth and then presenting it and providing that out and exploring that data for value, right? And I think there's almost like a remapping exercise, right? Where if you're going through that journey, you have to start you have to rethink, what are each of those roles now? Do they do something different? And how do we make sure that we set our people up for success because they now understand that they have to behave differently? And so there's almost not only a data element, but thinking about change management and the lessons that we can borrow from digital transformation and agile transformations, and starting to think about how you do that translation between the old world and the new world. Like that to me is really interesting. And it's like, how do you bring all of those different bits together? Because I personally think, whilst you might not have the money or the resources to bring all of those different bits, whichever set of people, whether that's within data or wider in the organization, and I really hope it's wider within the organization, because data team just trying to sell data as a product is really hard. It just like pushes, it's a hard organizational change without the buy-in from the top. But once you get that buy-in, you really have to paint that roadmap for the organization, for what that really means, what that roadmap is, and how they should behave differently as a result. I hope that makes sense.
It does make a lot of sense to me. Thanks, Kate. That's brilliant. Will, perhaps we'd love to hear your take on the same question.
Yeah, I'm very similar to Kate, but I think it does need to come from the top. And interestingly, our CEO's actually set a KPI on data, so he's very driven to make the organization data literate and improve the data culture. And he's actually, I'm not quite sure where he got the metric from, but he wants 50% of all decisions within the business needs to be made with data, and he's set a time frame around that. So as a business, we need to obviously manage our data better internally, create the data pipelines and the data products, and also to upskill people so they can self-serve and become literate with data and comfortable with using data to make those decisions. So it's very much a drive from the executive team to push that a different culture across the business. And then in terms of our as external building data products for our clients, we do have a product development team. So that's staffed with product managers and product owners, and in a way they're kind of facilitators and collaborators, because there's so many people involved in the whole chain of building a data product, and they create the vision, and then they ensure they get the right people involved at the right time, and that can span right from the data producers internally. So we've been looking at the new thing of data contracts, binding people into KPIs. They're delivering their data into the greater whole at the right times, the right quality level, and then collaborating all the way through to the engineering teams. And then crucially for us, it's also sales and marketing and customer success. So it's actually demonstrating the value of that data product, be able to market it, obviously sell it. And then the big thing for us is customer success. So people have got to continually use the data. We need to get that feedback coming back into the organization. And I think that's where the the product managers, they kind of oil the wheels and make sure all that information, all those people are working together, and as a whole, that's how we're successful.
So fascinating. It's such an interdisciplinary effort, I guess, with what you're doing over there at Crewwell, and can draw a lot of parallels to companies who don't necessarily sell data as a product in the same manner, but still have to have these feedback loops and have to have that kind of interdisciplinary action. I wish we had, well, all day really. Sadly, we don't, and we have 7 minutes left. So I will jump to the Q&A section now, and apologies to folks whose questions we won't be able to address today. But what we try and do is capture a screenshot of all the remaining questions, and maybe we'll kindly ask the panelists to see if they have some time to spare after the actual webinar to address them offline. But I want to throw the first question at you, Mohit. So someone in the audience asked if there is a way. So there's always this debate of whether data product teams should be centralized or distributed. What do you think about that?
That debate is going to be there for a while, I think so. But I think as soon as someone starts asking the question from a centralization and decentralization aspect, I think you start thinking about data mesh, right? To get whether you need to have a data mesh sort of a structure or architecture. I think it's all about the interpretation, and to me, it's about where you are as a business, and what's your really requirement. I think if I talk about Collinson and some of the efforts we are trying to take as part of it, so we are trying to centralize the data but decentralize the resources. I hope it makes sense, because if we have a way to put all the data assets together, again, I think, or if we have a way to create a governance process which allows us to, I think, data to be accessed through one single place, and we can centralize it, but we still have decentralized team as part of different product or business team who are able to access that data and feed back to the business team about how their data is doing, what kind of results are we getting. That's the best, I think, best of both worlds to me, to be honest, because I almost always think about, for the end user, everything is an abstraction, right? Okay, I think they don't really care about whether you have 100 data lakes or one data lake, or you have 100 data warehouse or one data warehouse. I think at the end of the day, I think they just want to have access to the data. So if you have a way to govern that access and decentralize the resources so that they have the accountability and ownership of their own data, and to that end, I think data governance starts playing a really vital role, because then you start identifying different data domains, then you start identifying different data owners, and then you start telling them, I think you would be needing these different data resources as part of your domain so that you can handle it properly. So yeah, I think there is no black and white answer, to be honest. It depends on the organization, where they are in their data maturity, and based on that, I think they can take a call.
Thanks so much. Thanks, Mohit. That's a great answer. I will maybe ask you, Kate, the next. Actually, there's this button thingy. Oh, right now we should all be seeing the question I'm about to ask you. So, what are the key differences between a product manager and a data product manager? And feel free to throw that book behind you at the camera, because it sounds like it might hold some of the answers.
Yeah, I mean, yes, definitely. I mean, yeah, I mean, well, another plug for Doug's book. So this is a question I get asked about all the time, right? Not just from in general perspective, but actually from a career development path perspective, career development framework perspective. So should we create a specific data product manager role or a product manager role? And my answer to that is it depends, right? So I think there's different parts of the estate. So in terms of data platforms, I really do think that any sort of back-end platform manager, product manager, you can think of it like analogous. So really, thinking about platforms as a product. But when it comes to data as a product, and I mean the actual data, I really do think there's a very specific skill set. You know, product managers need to be able to use the tools. So now we're talking about you need SQL skills. They need to understand how that data is being, how their product is being used. So now you're talking about what you need to at least know what data scientists do and have some level of data analytical skills, right? So it all kind of builds up. And what I found in the like over the years is that I found that in the platform space, I think, you know, kind of your generalist product manager can fit into that space. But when it comes to data product management, the set of skills are so specific to data that it's normally now my feelings have changed, which is that it used to be, it's just product management in general. But now it's much more like, no, this is a data manager role, but with product management as opposed to a product management role with some data. It is qualitatively different. And the way that I think about recruiting people are quite different as well. So, and I do think data product managers are a real niche and a real specialist skill set. And you can make the jump from product management into data product management. But I think it's really, it's hard and you need the dedication. I hope that helps.
It feels like drinking from the well of expertise in terms of data product management and product managers listening to you, Kate. And I'm conscious of time, but I did want to throw one last question at you, Will, just in the remaining minute or two. And it's this question, seeing as you said earlier that you started from, well, maybe not personally, but 50 years ago when Crew was basically trading in paper and everything else, to a point where now you are literally selling data products in one of the most cutting edge ways in the industry. And I wonder, in terms of upskilling, and the question is right there, of course, but do you upskill people in organizations so they can self-service their own data needs, or is it more about having a go-to data team to build and create the insights that the stakeholders require?
I mean, for us, we've got over 250 analysts, so they're kind of market analysts. They analyze the markets, but they're also very have to use data a lot in their roles. And I think in terms of for them to be able to be efficient, they have to be data literate, and they have to be able to use the data and self-serve. So very much for us, we've been teaching and coaching people to be able to use data more effectively, because it just wouldn't work them coming back into a central data team. But what we have done is we've abstracted away the technology layers, because these market analysts tend to be, they're more kind of backgrounds of economics or engineering. They're not necessarily data engineers. So we've abstracted away all the I suppose the code, the SQL code, and Python code, etc. So they use very much self-service front ends, which are really those are really improved over the last few years. So it's relatively easy for an end user to have quite a lot of power in terms of data analysis, but that allows us to scale, and people can explore data sets themselves without having to come back into a technical team.
Brilliant. I wish this panel discussion would never end. I'm learning so much, and I just wanted to thank you all, Kate, Mohit, Will, for joining me today. I hope this was very useful to the audience and to our viewers. And any unanswered questions I will share with you folks in case you want to have a stab and we can distribute offline. Thanks again for joining us, everyone, and wish you a wonderful rest of the day and the rest of the week.
Thank you.